Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing yet another 5-day forecast. In the last two videos we've done something very similar. Done a little more research in this video, so hopefully we can look into more areas of the United States. I'm going to try to look on the West Coast a little bit more. Again, not looking at the Rockies just because, last time we did that, it's not an area I can forecast for quite yet. But I would be looking at areas like British Columbia, Alaska, and the lower 48 down here, except for Rocky Mountain states. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first bit I'd like to talk about right now is actually severe weather. We have two little tiny little marginal risks here. They're both 2%. I believe they're both 2% wind, hail, and tornado. I don't know. Tomorrow's is only wind and hail. This is basically just from a little bit of a vorticity boundary that we'll set up somewhere in this vicinity. It's a little bit of a vorticity boundary. Storms will form along it if they can pick it up. You might get a brief tornado or two. You might get a few few little wind gusts, but otherwise nothing really too worrying out of all of this. Also another fun little weather tidbit. Actually, the other day we had believe tornado warning here. Actually, tornado in the San Francisco region. So that was interesting. I might look into that in the future. If you're interested, please let me know. But we're gonna look at the severe weather real quick, and in this section, just the area in the southwest, or southeast down here, what's really going on for you guys. So first off, I want to look at the synoptic pattern here. This is initialization. It's a little bit old, actually. Let me look at 21Z initialization. So this was at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We have this broad troughing, mostly zonal flow across much of the United States, but a little bit of a trough right here in the center. Troughing up here in Quebec, Northern Canada, some regions up here. Check the ensemble GFS, check the spaghetti plot. You can see we have our subtropical jet pretty up north right now. Polar jet also very south, so we're getting a lot of strong 500 millibar flows for the most part right now. Let's go back to the RAP model here. 21Z, see how long we can get on here. I'm probably going to be using a little bit older model runs just for right now. A lot of the newer ones are hot off the press. They're coming in at the moment. So if they're relevant, I'll look at them. But for right now, we're going to use a little bit older data just because that's what helps our forecasting. So looking at the southeast down here, you wouldn't really notice much. There's not really deep digging trough, but what's going to be happening is you can see this 500 millibar low here it really starts to build in right here. You can see you get this colder temperatures. Colder temperatures getting a little bit deeper each time. So you have colder temperatures mostly here, but we do get further and further south until we have a pretty broad troughing feature right here over this whole region. Now, the way that's going to be working here is we get a little bit instability. Again, today's severe weather isn't really too crazy. We have some cape over Texas and Louisiana. It's more so an overnight issue. So you can see that we check the surface map here on the RAP model. Try to use 21Z as much as I can here. This will reach to the time period we want. See warmer temperatures across all this region at the moment. But we're gonna get a little bit of a cyclone forming, not very strong, but a little bit of a cyclone there. And then some warmer air here, pretty moist as well. Zoom in a little bit closer. We have vorticity. Again, a little bit of a vorticity boundary setting up. The sectors are annoying, but you can see this vorticity boundary again, just in that region. The storms will be forming along that, and possibly a little bit of a flooding risk, but nothing too severe. If you get a few training storms, that's possible. Get some flooding out of it, but for the most part, you're getting some precipitation, some thunderstorms, maybe some brief severe hazards, but otherwise nothing too worrying out of this system right here. Just a little bit of vorticity boundary. You get some convergence. You can see mass convergence here, somewhat maximized along this boundary here, but then afterwards you get stability coming in, and nothing really too much to worry about for that. So that's really today and tomorrow's severe threat. Again, not very strong, just two little marginal risks along that region. We check our precipitation. It's a very similar story. Again, some areas around here maybe hitting 2 inches of rain. It's mostly along that mountainous region, the more hilly region, and you'll get some more precipitation right along there. But otherwise, you have a lot of dry air that's going to be affecting into the region soon afterwards. You can see at the end of the period. Let's check this RAP. End of the period, you can see. Well, this isn't as important, but you can see a little bit of more northerly flow for a lot of this region, a lot more colder air. And it will also be a lot drier. You can see dew points, they're starting to, you can see them slowly moving. Whoops, sounding. You see the dew points slowly moving south. Apologies. Dew points just keep moving south as that front kind of moves through right there. So that should begin to eliminate your possibility of precip after that time. And yeah, so in severe weather possible. I'm gonna take a look at the possible precipitation you could see here. Um, this might be a better sector. Let's look at this. You can see today thunderstorms become a little more prevalent in the evening or in the late at night. Going into tomorrow, pretty widespread precip for a lot of this region. So again, if a few storms are able to take advantage of the vorticity boundary, you could get a brief spin up, maybe some gusty winds, but nothing too worrying. Just general thunderstorms over this whole region, um, specifically along that frontal boundary. Then afterwards, it should get a little colder. Let's look at the NAM model here. Afterwards, again, you get a lot of that northerly flow. It should get a little bit colder than it is right now. It is also a lot warmer right now, but afterwards, you get a little bit cooler temperatures. NAM shows a little bit of sub-freezing temperatures, below freezing temperatures here in Mississippi. You get some in the east as well. Let's check the GFS because it does go a little bit further. They start to give you some cooler temperatures, freezing Georgia, Alabama, nearly reaching the Gulf Coast at some points there until you get a little bit warmer. There are some cyclones going on in southern plains over here we're going to look at now. So again, for your southeast here, you're going to be seeing some precip, thunderstorms, but for the most part, it will get drier pretty soon and colder. Looking at the southern Great Plains now, again, it'll be a fairly similar story to what we're seeing in the southeast. However, you're going to be a little bit removed from all that precipitation. It's going to be very dry. But at the moment, we have pretty warm air. This is current surface observations. Let's look down here as well, actually. And we have, let's see, zoom in a little bit. 70 widespread 70s here, 77 at this station, 77 down here. We have a few 80s down here in southern Texas. Let's move a little north here in Oklahoma, seeing some 70s, some 60s. Then if we move north of the fronts up here, you see some 50s and 40s. In Kansas, not too far away. Again, that's your colder air slowly moving its way south. But again, down you have some warmer air in Texas, but it's going to get colder pretty soon. The RAP model will probably show this pretty well. Let's look at the most recent run. And pretty close tonight, you're going to see some of that colder air moving in. Colder air, drier air. Check theta E again. You can definitely see that temperature is going to be decreasing as we move closer to that time period. Apologize for moving back and forth between model runs, but see colder temperatures will be on their way. Curious if any of this is Chinook winds actually, but for Texas and Louisiana and this whole region here, definitely a little bit colder coming up. Afterwards, however, you should get a little bit warmer. So the main thing we want to look at now is going to be 850 temperature advection. This is the sector I want right here. Looking at 850, again, right now we have a lot of warm air advection at 850. However, cold air advection behind that front, you can see, again, very cold air behind that is advecting its way into the region. And then warmer air associated with I believe, a little bit of a trough. Yeah, the trough at the end of the period. That's a little bit of a clipper system. Again, we're going to be looking into that later, but this will bring a lot of colder air advection possibly to that region here and into Friday. However, yet another trough. Seeing a lot of troughing. We have ridging coming in. That's the real thing. Is that ridging is going to be its way in. Lots of warmer temperatures, and that should lead to warmer air advection over this region later on as well. But again, colder air will. Sorry, oops. Let's end the period there. Warmer air coming back in. I'm curious if GFS does have temperature advection here. A little bit of warmer advection. I believe this is from another trough on its way in. Yeah, so there's that bit of a first clipper system, second clipper system we're looking at later, and that will help to bring a little bit of warmer air in this region again. So really a thing to look out for if you're in the southern Great Plains down here. Action is going to be, how are our troughs looking? Are our troughs going to be deep digging? Will it be warmer because of that? You're going to see colder air for a little while, but it's going to be pretty dry, and warmer air, but it will still be dry. You won't see too much moisture return for a while. Possibly on Christmas Eve, you might see some warmer air really helping you out. That's the day before Christmas Eve. Here's the day of Christmas Eve. You see a little bit of a troughing feature. Again, this is a little bit far out, I will admit. You can see a little bit of warmer air, and a lot more moisture. Christmas Eve is showing up in the GFS right now. So that's something to look out for if you're in the southern plains. And again, over much of the United States, it's a very similar story. Right now, I'm going to focus on the central plains. Let's take the RAP model again. We're going to focus on the central plains right now. You can see you have that cold air already advecting in, so it'll be pretty cold at the beginning of your period here. And temperature advection is just really where everything happens. So that's the main thing driving your weather right now. You start out with a lot of very cold air advecting in. However, you are going to get, um, I believe this is slight ridging or even more troughing. Let's check vorticity. You might get a little bit of cyclone genesis there helping to bring warmer air. Along the Rockies, it seems like we're getting a lot of lee cyclogenesis right now. It's interesting to look at, especially on the NAM, or sorry, RAP model here. You can see troughing in the north, and there's kind of troughs all over the place doing their own thing. They're all affecting the weather in kind of unique ways. You can see at the end of the what we have in the RAP right now, this colder air, colder air, higher wind speeds, a little more vorticity as well. That'll help to form some cyclones in this region. The RAP model again probably has pretty widespread trough surface cyclone right there. Even up there in I believe that's Alberta or Saskatchewan. Not 100% sure. We have this little cyclone right there that'll help bring out some warmer temperatures. Not to mention we have a little bit of a high pressure right here. This will help to maybe funnel some air up. And you can't see the cyclone or anticyclonic rotation too much, but a little bit in this region you can see some more southerly flow. It would help to bring out some of that air, but there's a lot more drier air right here. So a lot of that air being infecting is going to be drier. So we're not looking at severe weather up there because of this trough. Might be just enough moisture to help with snowfall if you're in the northern Great Plains. Again, shouldn't see too much, I don't believe. If you're on the northern half, that's where things become a little bit different. You can see here, this surface cyclone does start out pretty close to the ocean, so you can see a lot of moisture hanging out in there. 925 might help with that. See, there's your cyclone and a lot of moisture at 925. 850, similar thing, lots of moisture going on here. Even 500 millibars is a lot of moisture with that system. So not a typical Clipper system. Clippers tend to have a lot more drier air because you're coming from the north up here. A little bit of an Alberta Clipper. Similar, but not the same. Lots of moisture will be with this system, though, so that is something to keep in mind. And even the NAM here has this moisture mostly holding out. It seems like a lot of it does get used up eventually. PWatt, let's check PWatt. Yeah, lots of moisture right there on PWatt, you can see. So possible snowfall in the North Dakota kind of region up here. But you can see a lot of dry air over much of the United States, especially for that time frame. So as a right now, if you're in the northern central plains, just this whole area here, it's cold. You know that it's windy and cold, but you will be seeing some temperature relief, and your temperature's going to fluctuate a lot for the next few days here because we're seeing 850 again. Lots of different temperature advections going on. It's cold air advection, and then it's warm air advection, and then it's cold air advection, and then it's warm air advection again. And most likely it's going to be cold air right after that again. Yep. So as that next clipper moves through, colder air on the back side of it. So you're going to see a lot of fluctuating temperatures, some precipitation. Your precip's going to be more confined to this region up here, not so much down here in Kansas and Nebraska. It'll be cold and warm, and just again back and forth. But for the most part, drier conditions. Precipitation won't be super heavy, but if you're expecting precip, it's going to be up here in the North Dakota and Minnesota region. Because we've been talking about this clipper for so long, let's look at the Midwest next, because that's where this is really going to be impacting, is this clipper right here, this trough. Let's look at that. So regarding the NAM, let's go back to the 500 millibars. At initialization here, you're in the Midwest, you're seeing, a little bit warmer. It's somewhat windy, but a little bit warmer is your main thing. Do excuse my bird in the background. I am home now, so my bird might hear her a little bit. But that's what that sound is. So if you're in the Midwest right now, let's check the surface observations here. Again, see a little bit of strange wind movements all around. Not too much wind. Let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. Not too much wind for a lot of this. Widespread 30s, almost 40s here, but we are starting to reach that point of cooling. See where our precip is as well. A little bit of precipitation currently over this region, some snow. This might work our way over here. That's not really the main feature at the moment. Let's look at precipitation on the well. I'm a little bit curious. See with that ongoing snowfall, maybe a little bit reaching areas of the Midwest, but our main thing of interest is going to be that clipper later on. we've been talking about. So there's two clippers, although this is the main one. And then afterwards, another one to look out for as well is this one right here. That's another one to look out for. Right now, let's look at this one. End of the wrap model run. Let's see if the 21Z has not reached that point yet. 15Z run has. So let's look at that. Actually, a really nice sector for this. So you can see that cyclone right there. Again, it is infecting some moisture in here, so that could help with some precip. Precipitation type, this will be snowfall. Might curious if it's thinking any freezing rain in the southern portions. Maybe. Doesn't look like anything too big. And actually, speaking of freezing rain, real quick, just a quick segue. We did look at Iowa's freezing rain. This is kind of what we saw, just some ice everywhere. So that was part of our last forecast. I just want to look at. I do overviews on here sometimes. There's definitely some freezing rain over there in Iowa, so I'm glad we caught that. But freezing rain does not look like too likely upcoming. Possible with this system, but probably not. I wouldn't expect it. Back to the surface cyclone here. And 500 millibars vorticity is pretty maximized right here, so you'll get a pretty powerful cyclone forming. But moisture and temperatures will be pretty cold, so you might see some snowfall, but again, as we said, snowfall will be more confined to this region up here, somewhere along this corridor. That's where you're going to see your snow really coming in. Regions down here, you might see some lake effect. I don't believe the lakes are currently pretty dry, though. You might see some lake effect snow. Look at precip type again. The NAM has some, moderate light snowfall. You'll see some pretty widespread showers around a lot of this region until later, and then again move forward to the GFS because it reaches as far as we want to. Get that second clipper coming through again. More precip, likely more so from Michigan in that case. Looking at snowfall again though, just in that region right there for that first clipper, just in this northern mode. That rain, you can see the really well defined rain snow line right here. It really depends on where that will be. And then on the next system, again, some more snowfall, possibly lake effect. And again, the specifics of this could definitely change. But if you're in this region, um, northern Illinois, northern Iowa, maybe northern Indiana and Michigan and Wisconsin, keep your eye out for snowfall and precip on your way. But one thing I also want to check on as well was actually temperature anomalies, because you guys will be warmer for a lot of this time frame, which is very interesting. Let's do. There we go. Surface temperature anomalies. Well, you can see at the end of the period there. Right now, you're seeing a lot of warmer air, warmer temperature anomalies. See a brief period of colder air with that first clipper, and then a similar story where you have warmer air followed by possibly colder air with that second clipper. It seems like the GFS just thinks it's going to be warmer across much of the United States there anyway. But you can see a very well defined warm air is on its way for a lot of this region here, especially up here. So we start out with that colder air, but it will be warming up with all these cyclones on their way through. Where is it? Here it is. Here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Again, lots of warmer air. We just saw in the GFS. This is almost literally every single point in the United States. Apart from some points in western Alaska, we're going to be seeing above average temperatures significantly here, which is interesting again because we are looking at these clippers bringing some colder air, but afterwards, again, if we look at our 500 millibar pattern, lots of ridging. There's a ridge, so there's some ridging. There's more ridging. Again, quick troughs, but lots of ridging here in the late December, especially over the west coast. This western half, slowly moving over the central half. So it will be warmer, and especially with any troughs moving through too, just warmer air will be pretty prevalent. So as our TLDR from Midwest region, again, keep an eye out for some precip in the about 3 to 5 days range. For most recent stuff though, it'll be a fairly normal December, more dry. You won't really see too much snow, fairly dry, and it really depends on the rain snow line and where that precip will fall. Lastly, with the lower 48, again, the northeast is always interesting. Or, I mean, there's not too much going on right now. Currently, you're under pretty good trough. Not super cold though, so not really big temperature gradient. Possibly some colder weather Thursday. Let's look at the surface again here. some warmer air still kind of in there from that cyclone in this region. Maybe a little bit precipitation along with that, but it will be getting colder. Likely a little bit drier, although relative humidity here is pretty high. Going to be under a high pressure ridge though. Let's look at surface high pressure. See, at the end of the period here, definitely a surface high pressure. Right now, again, a little bit warmer. Look at this temperature anomalies again. Right now, it's a lot warmer, but you will be getting more of that cold air. So you can see at the end of our period, we're looking at our forecast, you're going to be in that colder air regime compared to a lot more of the western half of the United States. But as of now, you're under a lot more warmer air. And with that clipper system we talked about within the Midwest, that'll move into your region, but definitely weaken, which will lead to a lot more colder air keeping itself there without really any warmer air to complement that. And moisture, again, you'll be losing a lot of moisture, like as will many areas in the United States. Saw earlier, you're gonna lose a lot of moisture at the end of this period here. So fairly boring for the northeast. So if there's anything interesting, I'll definitely make an update, but it's pretty stagnant for this region. Just it's going to be colder and drier. Really, that's the main thing you have going on. Again, we looked at temperature anomalies across the United States. It will definitely be warmer than average, especially in the future. You can see here. This is the GFS model moving forward. A lot of, I mean, the entirety of practically North America here is under warm temperature anomalies there. Yeah, so that's interesting to look at. Looking at the U.S. as a whole again, the frame I think is probably our last really reasonable frame is right here. It's a little bit of that second clipper we talked about. Um, Pretty broad troughing for a lot of this region. Again, another stronger clipper for Friday. And as of now, again, that pretty zonal flow, which will get a little bit of a kink there for severe weather. First clipper might bring some snowfall here. Warmer temperatures here. A little bit colder in the northeast. And then at the end of that period there, wow, end of the period there, a little bit of a trough there, a little bit of a clipper system. And then you can see here, the models do agree for a lot of this portion until they reach this point, and then it becomes kind of a little bit of a jumbled mess. We'll end out the video for the most part. I want to look at the western half of the United States because I have been lacking at that area in the past few times on the forecasts. Precipitation wise, it's really the only interesting thing. Regions closer to Washington will be seeing quite a bit of precip, more on the west coast of Washington. This is your more precipitation area, mostly because of pretty big troughing over a lot of the Pacific Ocean right now. I think the 18Z run will get me there. Oh wow, look at that. Let's go back to the beginning here. And as we talked about in the last video, pretty strong high pressure ridge. This has been staying here for a while. The GFS keeps us going for a really long time. But you can see that the low pressures, because of that, are stronger. So you get a lot of vorticity coming out of this. Lots of lows that'll want to form, especially surface lows. Check the surface lows again, same thing. Lots of surface cyclones really everywhere here on the GFS. And that will help to bring some precip to the coastlines. And especially if you're doing it a better sector for this. This might be a little bit better. A little bit tricky. Let's just do this one. No, scratch that. The West Coast is really annoying to get good sector for. But you can see as of initialization, you have this, low pressure here. This is bringing a lot of warm, moist air, and this is actually going to be bringing the Seattle, Western Washington, Western Oregon, Northwest California region quite a bit of precipitation here. You see how quickly that accumulation happens, especially right there. Your wind vectors, they're hard to see, but a lot of them are pointed a little bit towards the coast there, so that could really help to bring some precip. I believe you might have an atmospheric river. Let me check that. Yeah, there's your atmospheric river. Very well defined. There's a lot of precipitable water just bringing its way right into that region. That'll be that precipitation coming through. And again, a similar story coming afterwards, just and more atmospheric rivers just working their way. Lots of moisture in your region, and then that's where a lot of that precip across British Columbia and regions here in Alaska also come from. As you can see, our mean wind vectors very much pointing towards the coast a lot here, and then later on towards the time period you get a lot more there in Alaska. So that's definitely interesting. Actually, I'm curious if this will give us precipitation too. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Precipitation again. Lots of above average precipitation here in the region we're talking about. and regions in Alaska, just because we have a lot of precipitable water, lots of moisture here, and it's all pointed right towards the coast. So very similar to our last forecasts. Alaska, again, very similar. Just lots of moisture, lots of winds moving right towards the coast. You get that combination, you end up with some ocean effect rain going on the coastlines. Then obviously we looked at our, excuse me, our temperature here will be colder. Just looking at right here, and a little bit colder on the west coast, but more on the eastern half of Alaska. Lots of warmer temperatures, really just across the entire United States as a whole. So let's just do a little recap of the entire video in case you lost anything. Let's see here. Let's do no. There we go. So a little bit of severe weather threat down here in regions really here. Severe weather and precipitation. You get some rainfall. Nothing too heavy, but it's always possible there. Just because of a little bit of a vorticity boundary later tonight and into tomorrow morning. Again, there's some thunderstorms forming there, but not too much really of a severe threat there. Just some thunderstorms really across a broader region here. Now, if you're in the southeast, it will be colder. You're gonna get a lot more colder air, probably somewhere along that kind of gradient. Colder air, especially more so in the weekend in the Carolinas, but quickly you're gonna see colder air here in Mississippi. And regarding colder air as a whole, we currently have pretty decent cold blast in some regions here. This will keep advecting south. Regions here will get a little bit colder upcoming, but we're just gonna see day after day. It's going to be know, it's colder today, tomorrow it's warmer, the day after it's colder, the day after it's warmer. So we're gonna be seeing something like that for really a broad area here. Expect some snowfall regions along this corridor, especially in Minnesota and Wisconsin, maybe some from North Dakota. But moisture will be a little bit of an issue for much of the region here. If you're in the Midwest, again, keep an eye out for two clipper systems that will move their way from just typical clipper systems. You'll see two of these moving through. Just really depends on where that rain snow line really decides to draw itself. Keep an eye out for that. Snowfall may be coming your way. And we did look a little bit at the white Christmas possibilities, but really, if you're looking anywhere, the northeast up here is the real possibility. Otherwise, you're going to be seeing a lot of above average temperatures for much of the United States for a while here. A little bit of above average precipitation on this region here, and regions up in Alaska. And lots of precipitation here. And across the United States as a whole, again, we're not looking too much at heavy precip, heavy snowfall really either. Again, if you're going to see snow, it's going to be in this area. Otherwise, nothing too scary. But it's going to be warmer, so again, if the Scrooges may be a little bit happy for the upcoming days. Other than that, again, thank you for watching. I am planning on making a Will It Snow on Christmas video just once we get a little bit closer to our time frame. Again, the GFS runs, the ensemble model just doesn't really like to we do it a little bit far out. Get close enough, we don't. The GFS analysts don't really want to agree completely, but you can see here's Christmas, a little bit of ridging over the central United States, slight troughing out here, slight troughing out here. This is mostly ridging pattern though, so you're gonna be seeing a lot more warmer temperatures most likely. But I might make a video if it's interesting enough, or if there's anything particular for who will see snow on Christmas. So with that, I say thank you for watching. If you like these 5-day forecasts, please let me know. Any feedback is appreciated and really helps the channel out, helps me out too. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.